Welcome to Closing Bell. I'm Sarah Eisen along with Wilfred Frost.
Lots of chip-based news today. Coming up on the show, executives from the semiconductor industry meeting at the White House to discuss the global chip shortage. We'll talk about whether Washington can really solve the problem with Cypress Semiconductor's founder, T.J. Rodgers.
Executives from Alphabet, Ford, and GM among those attending today's White House Chip Summit in hopes of addressing this global chip shortage that's weighing on automakers and other industries. A number of the chip stocks finishing today in the red, with Intel and AMD among the biggest losers, though overall the group has been strong. Joining us now for more is T.J. Rodgers, former Cypress Semiconductor CEO. It's great to have you here, T.J. Looking forward to talking to you about all this news in the chip space. First, from your perspective, why are shipments of chips so globally constrained right now?
Well, now that I'm a retired CEO, I can say the truth, and that is all problems like that are because of management screw-ups. It's real simple. Obviously, if you manage things right and have systems in place, it wouldn't happen. And that the industry is not there yet. And this correction, this swift kick, is going to cause them to improve things, and this will get a lot better in the future. Anyone
in particular you're referencing when you point to mismanagement?
Well, okay, let me not be so strong in mismanagement, but yes, I will point my finger and tell you that the car companies caused this. And all you have to do is, be a chip CEO, which I was for a bunch of years. I'll give you one example how we were treated. I got a call from Japan, just merged with a company, up to my eyeballs, not getting enough sleep. You have a problem we need to talk to you about in Tokyo tomorrow morning. I got a merger. We don't care. Show up. This will count on your record. So you get in the airplane, you fly all night long, you get out in August with your suit sticking to your back, and you go into a boardroom and get the hell beat out of you by a bunch of Japanese directors. They like to be deeply involved. Okay, that's not just a Japanese story. That's a story about the auto industry. And they treat chips the way they treat tires, right? Oh, rubber, how much does it cost per pound? Yeah, we want a lot of tires. We don't want tires at all. You hold the tires until we need them. And the problem is chips are one of the most complicated things on the face of the earth. A typical video game, if you had a blueprint, literal, they don't do them anymore, but literal blueprint of a chip be 1,000 times more complex than the blueprint for the Empire State Building. And you don't just turn them on and turn them off. And it takes real smart, real well-run companies even to make them. So when COVID-19 smacks the system and everybody gets scared and they're playing the who's got the inventory game when the music stops, they pushed it back on the Gulf chip companies. And the chip companies said, okay, yes, boss, we'll have layoffs. We'll stop making the stuff. Problem is a chip takes 60 to 120 days a wafer to make. 60 to 120 days from the time the round piece of silicon goes into a robotized fab and gets carried automatically through the line till it comes out. Then it goes around the world, maybe only once if you're lucky, for another 2 weeks to get turned into a chip, tested, and shipped. And there's no responding faster than that, and that's it. So when they wait and they get hit and they got hit with surprise demand, there's nothing that can get done.
So it sounds, TJ, like you're not suggesting the government is to blame, but the reason I bring that up is, can they be part of the solution? How quickly can what was discussed today help to give a solution to make the U.S. Not face a shortage as it does now, but also be more self-dependent going forward?
Well, let me answer by analogy. Start out with, let's suppose there's a shortage of masks today. Would you trust Joe Biden to do a study and figure out the supply chain for masks and make masks better and more efficiently and give us some government money to get it done? Or would you start going on Amazon to find a mask? And the answer is, of course not. The government can't do stuff. This is, as I said, one of the most complex industries in the world. And it suffers from meddling from the government. Even meddling, throwing money at them, distorts the industry and messes stuff up. They're smart guys. They're going to figure it out. The auto guys are going to learn. They have to treat chips with more respect. They have to. By the way, Toyota did a good job. If you notice, Toyota was one of the companies that didn't announce shutdowns. And what they did is they stockpiled 2 to 6 weeks worth of chips, which is anti-Japan thinking. Having inventory is not okay, but when the cycle time to make stuff is so very long, you've got to do that. That's prudent management. That kind of stuff will happen. They'll debate internally. You'll never hear it. Who pays for the inventory? And all the government can do by politicizing the thing and having a Democratic-Republican argument whose fault it is waste time and make people think they're doing something that matters. They can't.
Got it. So you're against the government intervention and spending more money. TJ, wanted to ask you another question, unrelated, but one about executives and roles of corporations and CEOs right now. There was a call over the weekend, an emergency call on Zoom with more than 100 CEOs hosted by Jeff Sonnenfeld of Yale University to talk about how they should deal with the new voting laws, especially out of Georgia and coming out of other states. Do you think that CEOs should be speaking up and speaking out against these voter laws and getting involved more politically?
Okay, there's 2 levels to that question. Would I do that? No way. I run a company for my shareholders. The purpose is to manage their asset properly and make money for them, period. The Milton Friedman thing was right, and that's still what has to get done. On the other hand, if you ask me, do CEOs have the right to talk about a political view of their company, be it a conservative or liberal political view, and lobby for that? They do. As long as they're open with their shareholders, the shareholders understand it costing them money, and there's a cost to running the business properly, distraction plus whatever you spend on it, plus people that don't like whatever view you have and go to your competitors. So yes, they have the right to do it, but on that particular one, would I really go to a Yale professor and spend my weekend on Zoom trying to figure out whether or not I should politicize my company? No, I already know that. The company, your shareholders have given you money. They are going to retire on that money in many cases, and it's your job to watch that money right and grow it for them so that their retirement will be covered. And that's what your job is. And then you vote the way you want to vote. You contribute politically the way you want to contribute. And companies can contribute politically. I just don't see this politicization as being valuable. Everybody will be less well off.
TJ, wanted to pivot back to the chip shortage and the level of threat it is to the US's national security. In particular, how important, while we do transition to perhaps having more self-dependency in this area, how important Taiwan is to the US and whether there is a genuine fear of intervention by China on Taiwan that could trigger much bigger response from the US than perhaps people might be factoring in.
Okay, that was a long question with a lot of parts, and only one part of it had something that was a little bit scary to me, and that's China/Taiwan. I'll get to that last. I don't think the governments ought to be involved in this thing. I don't think I know they can only hurt. I've been in this for years. I've had the privilege of testifying in Congress 5 times, and every time my testimony was the same. I was invited by the contrarians, and I got up and said, "Why would you give American taxpayer money to some of the richest and most well-run companies in the world? Why would you do that? Why is that fair or even reasonable?" And what came from that was a vote against me. And by the way, Gordon Moore is on the other side, so it's nothing to vote against me. And a company called Semitech got made, and the government squandered a bunch of money on it. And that much happened from Semitech. That's what's going to happen from this. Second point, governments that throw money at chips do a crappy job. They don't get anything done. They've been throwing money at chips for years. We're going to have Silicon Germany and Silicon France. It didn't happen. They've got a 10% industry. China, oh my God, what are we going to do about them? They've been throwing money for years. They've got one company called SMIC. It's a don't care company. So chips demand the free market. If players intelligently acting in a free market aren't running chip companies, then the results won't be as good. And both Europe and China have showed that. So that was the answer to all your question, but the last part, I never thought of concept of China doing some sort of power grab and taking over Taiwan. Taiwan is a free economy, and they have prospered on chips. And they have the right combination of chips to be free and have free markets work for them, but also have very low-cost labor and government policies with low-cost capital, land, et cetera. And the net result is the Taiwanese semiconductor industry has become extremely important. And losing that, or losing control of that, or causing that not to be free in the world would be a problem. Last point, we never have to worry about military chips. That's all scare tactics. I used to be the chairman of the SIA, and it always caused me to look at the ground when I would listen to somebody from the SIA talk about defending our military, making sure we have the critical chips. Military chips are different. They typically are at least 10-year-old technology, and they're made for a different purpose, and we will have forever all of them that we need. That's not the problem. But national security to me is more dependent on having state-of-the-art chips that make you a player in the chip world. That's more important to us, because I don't think winning a war is the most probable part of our future security. I think winning the economic war and being on top is the most important thing. And there we need a vibrant chip industry. We're down to, I think, like 12%, but we make the most important 12% of chips in the world, the most advanced 12%. I was on your show, and that's why I was so hard on the old Intel management when Intel was giving up market share, because they weren't executing, because they're a national asset. And glad they've got a new CEO and they're working on it. So yeah, the only thing you said that even gives me a pause is if we ever lost TSMC in Taiwan for some reason, that would be bad.
TJ Rodgers, always good to have you. Thank you for your candid thoughts.
Thank you.